Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Healing Train. I am your conductor, B.Von Squires, and today we are sponsored by Spirit Source Connection, where we believe that we are multidimensional, energetic beings, and we apply recovery and healing to all areas of our lives. That's our mind, our body, and our soul. But today we're here because it's the Healing Train, where ordinary people come to talk about their extraordinary stories, and we learn that trauma is something that happens to everyone's life, but it's not going to be the same. There are ups and downs, twists and turns along the way. And sometimes the trauma that we sometimes encounter isn't necessary. Sometimes it's a beautiful blessing that we're not able to understand yet. And that may be why it causes the trauma. And what I'm really happy about is that today's passenger that we have for you is Katie Platipodis. I've known her for a very long time. She's a wonderful friend. I've been able to watch her process. And the thing that I wanted her to come on and share about with you today has to do with her trauma as a first-time mother. I know, you don't think that something like that would be traumatic. And I've never had children, and maybe there's some of us out there that never have. And so we'll be able to live vicariously through Katie's story today. And so with no further ado, I'm going to ask Katie to please come on and say hello to us today. Katie, can you please come on and say hello to our community?
Hi, I'm so excited to be on a passenger on the train today.
Yes, we're so excited to have you. Thank you. And so here we're going to let you guys know how everything's going to go. As you know, I wrote a book. It's called The Energy Harvest, a spiritual model for the enhancement of your life. It's a 4-phase trauma healing process, and it talks about identifying the trauma, and then it talks about the mindset that we have to have in order to heal from the trauma. Then we go on and talk about achieving success after we've done the healing and all that inner work, and then it moves on into sustaining all of that wonderful momentum that we've been able to achieve up until this point. And so today we're going to ask Katie to please come on and tell her what it was like to identify trauma in such a beautiful setting. What was that like for you to identify that? And what were those feelings involved? Katie, please just come on in your own words and explain that to us today.
Well, I think for one, I just wanted to say that because I wasn't a mother until later on in my life, that for a very long time I just thought, I guess I'm just not going to be a mother. I imagine my life. I imagine having a lot of dogs, traveling the world, and just being a good auntie, to my nieces and nephews. And so when I became pregnant with my first child, it was a very unexpected thing, and so I think I had a lot of fear about, I think I just had a lot of fear about, being able to mother this child, especially because I didn't do it in the, traditional, like I wasn't as young as I should have been when I don't know, as society says, and so I had a lot of fear about that. And so, and then also one thing that made a big difference too, is that I was extremely sick with my first child when I was pregnant. And so, I had, they call it morning sickness, but I don't know why they call it morning sickness, because they should just call it everyday sickness, because you're sick all the time. And so, for the majority of my pregnancy, it was not an enjoyable experience. I didn't enjoy eating the things that I normally like to eat. And, I was very nauseous, and, I would throw up, and so that wasn't a very good experience for me either. And so, yeah. And then, you think about all the, you think about all the things that people tell you. Something funny happens in the world. Like when you become pregnant, people people, decide that they have no boundaries. People decide that they have no boundaries. And so not only do they want to touch your pregnant belly without asking for permission, but they also decide they want to offer you unsolicited advice. And so I can remember, people telling me all sorts of stuff when I was, pregnant with my first son about, make sure to nap when the baby naps, and don't worry about the house, the laundry will get done, and, just all kinds of advice that people would offer, even when I wasn't asking. And then when the baby comes, then it's even more unsolicited, because then, then it gets into, well, are you breastfeeding or are you bottle feeding? Are you, are you using, reusable diapers, or using disposable ones? Like, which, in this day and age, I don't know too many people that use reusable diapers. However, my mom used reusable diapers on us. And so, it's not too far fetched, but, and, no matter what my response is to whoever, it's a wrong one, it's a wrong one.
Oh my
and,
goodness.
and so yeah, I think I was just a little, nervous, because I just had a lot of information, and I had a lot of fears about what it was going to be like,
Sure,
and
absolutely.
so
So, Katie, tell me, when you were a little girl, I imagine that all little girls think about when they're going to have babies in their life. I thought about it. Obviously, that wasn't part of my story. That wasn't part of what God had planned for me. But I did think about having babies when I was younger. But my idea was, I'm going to have the baby, kick the man to the curb. Who needs a man? I just want the baby. That was that was my idea. And every time my mom heard me say it, she'd smack my lips, like, are you kidding me? That's just unheard of. Well, back in her day, yes, that may have been unheard of, but people these days, they're having their babies and they're living their lives just the way they want. They have a say so in how they want to, either be married or not, have the father involved or not. There's so many ways today and manners that people can become impregnated, and some of them don't even have anything to do with actual sex. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And so now for you, when you were small or younger, what were you thinking? What kind of mother did you think you would be?
I think maybe when I was younger, I thought I would have like a lot more. I thought I would have, like, maybe six or eight, 6 or 8 of them.
A whole litter, right?
Yeah.
That's too funny. That's too
And,
cute.
my mom had 5 of us. And when we were growing up, she also had an in-home daycare at our house. And so we were always surrounded by like young kids. There's always kids around. And so I think I just thought, like, what a great experience, for my kids. They should have the same. Now, my personal experience after having 2 was not like,
Let's
let's go. It was, it did not mirror that same, same image that my little girl had. But
sure,
but
sure.
yeah. And also in this day and age, I don't know, it'd be kind of expensive to have 6 or 8 kids.
Yes, it is quite expensive to have the child. I'm sure that your medical bills after having one child were astronomical to begin with,
Yeah.
and then the school clothing, and then all of the medical, and after the fact, and all of that. I can only imagine that some people may want to have large families, but just cannot afford to have them, and have to make
Yeah.
a decision to limit the number of children that they have. And
Yeah.
so now the other thing that I want to ask you about, I know I'm asking a lot of questions. But the other thing I want to ask you about, okay, so you're married to a wonderful man, Jeffrey Platipodis, your husband, who you were married to at the time that you got pregnant. Now, what was it like? You said you guys weren't actually trying to have the baby. You know what I'm saying? But of course, newlyweds do what newlyweds do. And then, of course, you have a baby or you get pregnant. What was it like telling Jeff that you were pregnant? What was it like?
Okay, so I did something really special to tell him. I went and got us ice cream from Dairy Queen, and I took the fork out of the bag, and I put the pregnancy stick in there instead. And so when he grabbed the ice cream and would go to grab the utensil, like the spoon, that he wouldn't find it, but he would find the pregnancy test.
What was his reaction? How did he take it?
Oh, he was excited. He was very excited. And
Course.
so Jeff, one of the reasons why I chose Jeff is that he's very family oriented. And, one of the reasons why I love him so much is because of the way that he would talk to young children and animals. Just such a sweet man. And so, I knew that he would be excited, maybe more excited than I was.
How exciting is that? Oh my God, how creative too.
Yeah.
Okay, and so now that you were able to identify, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant, I'm gonna have a baby. I wonder what kind of mother I'm going to be. And then of course there was a little bit of fear that maybe you wouldn't be the kind of mother that you had hoped you would be. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think so after I gave birth, I do want to say that you're unsure of what to expect, and having going through the physical process of having the baby and then bringing the baby home and then being with the baby 24/7. And basically I breastfed him too 9 months. And so it was just me and him every 3 hours, and also, I would get a break, but it was mostly just me and him. And I think I thought that like motherhood would be like everything, like it would just be like it would be everything to me or something. And I was very disappointed that to find out that it wasn't everything to me. It was very depressing. So it's just sitting here with a child, just me and him all by ourselves. Um, you know, Something I always joke about with my older sister is that motherhood is like you want a break. It's like you feel like you need a break to get away from them. And so then you get one, but then as soon as you leave, there's like this gnawing, there's like this ache to get back to them. And
Oh,
so there's an ache to get away and an ache to get back. And it's like, that's just how it always is. Like it's kind of funny that way. But, and so, now I'm trying to think about the question that you just asked me. What did you ask me?
oh yeah, I asked you, what was it like? Like, what kind of mother did you think you were going to be, and what
Oh,
like were you the kind of mother that you thought you were going to be, or you know what I'm saying?
well, I think I just thought that like it was going to be everything to me. And I was just disappointed to find out that like I wasn't fulfilled by just motherhood alone, if
What
that
what
makes any sense.
it does. What did you think it would be like though? What did you think when you say I thought it would be everything? What does that entail? Oh, everything. What does that mean?
I don't know. Maybe I just had some commercial like idea in my head, uh,
Ooh.
some Instagram person's, display of what their day in the life of this mother's looks like. Um, and it wasn't. And I felt like the other mothers that were giving me all the unsolicited advice beforehand, I felt like, I kind of wanted to say to them, well, how come you didn't tell me?
Come in and tell me this part. Oh, that's too funny. funny. You know, what you said though is something so powerful. You said the Instagram and social media idea of what it's supposed to be like is nothing like the reality of it itself.
No.
That is so powerful. And I really love that you say that, because so many of us get our cues from social media where everything is perfect. You know what I mean? So
Right.
many of us get our cues about how life should be based on what we see in social media. So I'm here to say thank you for dispelling that and let us know that everybody's individual experience is going to be their individual experience. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for bringing that out. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And
So I
so,
go ahead.
no, you.
I was just gonna say that so I felt guilty about that. So I felt guilty that, my ideas of what it was going to be like didn't line up with my experience of that. And I was ashamed. I didn't want to tell anybody about that.
Ooh,
And it wasn't until I was honest and I shared with other people that I trusted. I shared in a group of women that I trusted, that I found out that they had the same experience. And so, um, but it was a very emotional coming out of coming out with what's going on with me, and so
absolutely.
I
That
was
is so
relieved. I was relieved to know that I wasn't alone in that, though.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing so honestly, because that's why we're here. We're here today to show people what is possible and to help them identify. So there's another young mother out there that has gotten pregnant, that's happy to be pregnant, but not sure what to expect. And so today you're helping her to understand that if you go to social media and you see something there, hey, hold on. Your experience might not be that way. And it's okay to have whatever feelings you have. And you don't have to feel guilty or shameful for having those feelings. And thank you so much for sharing that today, Katie, that you actually experienced that. So now somebody else that's watching this can see that if they're feeling the same feelings, they don't have to feel guilty or shameful for having them. That is so powerful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I know it wasn't easy to go to that group of women, and fight through the thought, oh my God, they're going to judge me, oh my God, they're going to think I'm awful, they're going to wonder how the heck I got pregnant in the first place, they're going to wonder all of these things. And still you were able to find the courage, right, to reach out and say, hey, I need help. Oh my God, that is so powerful. That is so powerful. And then help became available, right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, as soon as I was able to share honestly about what was going on with me, the influx of like women that approached me afterwards were like, it was amazing,
Oh,
So
good. Oh wow.
it felt wonderful to know that I wasn't alone in that. Um, really the majority of women have their own have their own experiences, and um, the majority of the world isn't what we put on, the majority of our life isn't what the 1% that we put on social media, right? I just happen to be one of those people that gets sucked into that social media thing, and so I know that about myself now. And so, I got to put a limit on how much I feed my mind, that kind of stuff. So
Sure, sure, absolutely. Thank you. You guys, we are here with Katie Platipodis today talking about her motherhood story and how it was a bit traumatic for her at first and not really sure how to find her way. But she did end up giving birth to two wonderful, beautiful little boys. And so she's just talking about how important it is to feel your feelings and make sure that you reach out and tell someone so that you can get the support that you need. And so I want to know now, and I'm sure everyone else would like to know as we continue to move through the process, what was the mindset that you had to adopt to be okay with learning how to be a mother? Because, of course, it doesn't come with a manual. And, of course, your child doesn't come with, directions. So, what was that like, preparing your mind, preparing your life to be a mother? And what did you do to help do that?
well, I just have to tell a really funny story. I so I had a very long labor with my first child, and they admitted me when I was only 1 centimeter dilated, which is crazy, but I'm glad they did. It was my first time. So, I was having back labor and it was painful, but he was going to come when he wanted to come. And it wasn't going to be for, 50 hours later after I was admitted. Okay. And yeah. And also I had the nurse that was in the delivery room. It was her very first night in the labor and delivery on the labor and delivery floor. And so she was having me push. I'm not blaming it on her. She just didn't know where she was having me push, and I wasn't the labor wasn't being productive, I guess you could say.
Okay.
And so it wasn't until she got off her shift and the next lady came in and that the labor started going somewhere. And so I pushed for 4 hours with my son, and I didn't know that it was an option to stop. I didn't know that I could say, all right, I'm done. Get him out, most people just push for 2 hours and then, but and needless to say, I was exhausted by the time he came. And then there was a complication with his head getting stuck like in the canal somewhere. I don't remember actually now. It's been so long. I don't remember, but there was a complication. And when he came out, by the time he came out, my the epidural had unhooked from my back, and so I didn't have even though I had an epidural, it was gone. It wore off by the time I actually pushed him through.
Oh,
So that
no.
was an experience in and of itself. But anyway, he came out, and then he had to go to the NICU. And so I did get to hold him, but I was so exhausted from pushing for 4 hours. And also I had this idea in my head of what it was going to be like when the first time I held my baby, and it was not that experience. And it's because my labor was different, and,
Sure.
and then he had to go for 8 hours over into the NICU because he ended up inhaling some of the amniotic fluid. And so he was having a hard time breathing on his own. And so, but I'm so grateful for that 8 hours that he went to the NICU because I got to rest.
Okay.
But anyway, by the time we came home, I was so freaked out because I didn't know that I was going to be able to wake up to him. Right. I was freaked out because I was like, in the hospital, you have nurses there, you have nurses there to help you. They help you if I was just nursing him, and, I was having a hard time getting him to latch in the hospitals, but I also had people there helping me. But when we came home, we set up his little crib right next to our bed. And my husband was like, you need to get some rest. And I refused to rest because I was like in my head, what am I going to do? What if he moves? What if he flips over? What if he, like all the things. And I was spiraling in my head.
Oh, wow.
And so anyway, I have this really good friend. And I reached out to her, and can I say that?
Say that.
I reached out to Benita. Okay. I reached out to B.Von, and she reminded me of something because, I had established a relationship with my higher power, and she reminded me of something so, so important, and that, that God was going to give me everything that I needed when I needed it. Right. And that it wasn't going to come until right when I needed it. Okay. So, I'm becoming a mother, that those mother instincts weren't going to come until I became a mother, and so she reminded me that, that was inside of me, that God gave it to me, that it was going to be okay, that I just needed to take care of myself, that the most important thing, that in order to be the best mother to him, that I needed to take care of myself. And so thank God Thank God for Benita. And so I rested, and guess what? When he woke up, he let me know. And to this day, and if he's sleeping in the other room and he moves in his sleep, I wake up, I can hear it in my sleep. It's the most amazing thing ever, like that motherly instinct that I didn't think that I had, I have it. And so that was just a wonderful lesson to me that God gives us what we need when we need it. And to
Wow.
trust,
Wow, how amazing is that? Not thinking that you had what you needed. And then when you needed it, it was there. The first time that your baby moved and woke you up out of your sleep, you were like, oh my God, I've got that mother thing is here. What was that like to know that, you were that to begin thinking that you didn't have it and then to realize that you did, to realize that God had already equipped you with everything you needed to be the mother to this beautiful child. What was that like? How did that feel?
it was like a victory. It was such a relief, It was such a relief to know that God had me, and I had my baby, and that we were taken care of. And like, I just needed to trust. And so that the mindset of, being fearful and literally spiraling, I was spiraling when I got home. Like, I was at the point of, I was a mental break probably because I needed to sleep. You remember what they said, sleep when the baby sleeps. So, and so it was a feeling of relief. I had peace knowing that we were in the care of, and I was able to rest and, take care of my baby. So.
Sure. Wow, how exciting is that? Now, I've heard about postpartum depression. Now, of course, I don't have any children, and I don't know that experience for myself. Did you feel like you experienced any of that?
Oh yeah, I
Is that
did.
a real thing? That's a real thing then?
Yes. Now I was never diagnosed with postpartum depression with Dylan, which was my first son. I was with my second. But when they did the testing for me with my second, I realized that I definitely suffered with it with my first. I didn't realize, I didn't go to the doctor. I didn't get, you know what I mean? Like I just
Sure,
pushed through it or
sure,
whatever.
sure.
But yeah, I experienced depression, and I think some of that started and stemmed from my idea that it was going to be something, it was going to be everything, and then just coming to find out that you know just like everything else, it's not, nothing is everything.
Okay. Okay. I think what I'm hearing you saying is the fantasy you were so caught into this false reality of what it was going to be about. You had your expectations so high that when it actually happened and those expectations were not met, that then there was a natural sense of depression because you had to come back down to where you really were. Not that you were depressed, but because the expectation was so high, then you had to regulate yourself down to the actual reality of things, and there was a natural depressing of the feeling
Yeah.
happened there. Wow, that's pretty major. And I know it's a real thing. I know that you're not the only one, that there are people out there that can identify with what you're saying. And so for the new person who's just pregnant and not really realizing that this is part of it, we're telling them today what? Yes, it is part of it, right?
Yes, it's part of it.
Okay. And that
And
there's help.
yes, the help is available. And I did start counseling. I did start seeing a therapist with my first. And so that introduced me to getting some outside help.
Okay.
And I looked forward to those meetings with my therapist. Um, and then with my second child, I was prescribed an antidepressant, but I actually wanted to back up and say that they didn't diagnosed me with postpartum depression. They diagnosed me with postpartum anxiety.
Okay.
So there's a difference. Just I don't know. Sometimes when we would be out in public, so with a child, especially a baby that needs to be fed every 3 hours, a new small baby, you know, in your mind as a parent, you have a 3 hour window. If you're going to go anywhere, you got 3 hours. Okay. You got a 3 hour window before it's time to feed, change a poopy diaper, and put him down for a nap. So it's a
Okay.
3 hour window. I remember taking my son into a Kohl's, and I took him into the fitting room with me. Well, he was not having it. I was trying to find a dress for something. I forget. My niece was graduating from the 8th grade. I forget. But to me, in my mind, it was important that I found a dress. But I didn't like my body either. I was having all sorts of, negative feelings about that too. And he wouldn't stop crying. I couldn't get him to stop crying. And so like I don't know, overwhelming feelings of like, I don't know. I don't know how to describe the anxiety, but overwhelming feelings like basically I had to take him, drop everything that I had in the car, and we had to leave because he wouldn't stop crying. And then, get home. And so yeah, I don't know did you ask me a question?
No, that was definitely
Okay.
that was definitely traumatic experience. You were sharing with us what it's like,
Yeah.
to have a baby and to know that there's the anxiety that comes up after the fact, and trying to go out and have a productive life, and realizing that everything is on a schedule, a 3 hour schedule. This is the time you have to get there, stand in line, get your dress, all this kind of stuff, and then you have a baby that's crying that won't stop. And I'm sure that in your mind you're thinking, oh my God, everyone's wondering why my baby is crying, and they're thinking I'm a bad mother because I can't get him to stop.
Oh,
Oh,
it's the worst. Yeah.
or go home. Oh my gosh.
And then also, when you can't get the baby to stop crying, not only is it some of it a little bit about what other people are thinking, but some of it is also I'm a bad mom because I can't get my baby to stop crying, right? So I do remember reaching out to my mom though once and saying, I don't know what to do. I fed him, I changed him. Just telling her I did all the things of what it could be. And she told me, well, sing him a song. And so then I sang him this song, Baby Beluga. It was a song that my mom played on a record for us when we were little.
Okay.
And I sang him a song and it worked. He stopped crying. And then that became his song. That became Dylan's song that we would sing to him and then and then it became like he wouldn't go to bed at nighttime without us singing it to him.
Oh, how awesome is that?
Yeah.
Wow. How cool is it that you reached out to your mom and she gave you the thing that worked for her on you, and then
Yeah.
you were able to use it on your baby too? Oh gosh, that is so amazing. Just so awesome to hear this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all this with us today, and there was something that you mentioned that was so powerful and so real, is the body change, and watching yourself go from a brick house 36, 24, 36 to like you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And then to have this wonderful, beautiful baby bundle of joy, and then to look over at yourself in the mirror and be like, "Grr," you know what I'm saying? And so,
Yeah.
how do you reconcile that? How do you see that it's worth it? That even though you don't have the body that you used to, you have a baby now instead. You know what I'm saying? Like the trade off. Do you ever look at it like a trade off? Like it's okay that I don't have the body that I had, because now I have this beautiful bundle of joy, this beautiful addition to my life. How do you feel about the two of those? Like
Yeah, I like that. I like that mindset. I also like to think like my 36, 24, 36 body didn't carry a child for 10 months and go through 4 hours of labor and push him out, you
right,
know?
Right.
And so, I do think, that it's my body is awesome, for what it's done, not
Right.
only giving me one child, but two children, two healthy children.
Right.
And so, yeah, I've been dealing with the body image thing since, for a long time. And that's, social media, that's one of those ones too.
Sure.
But it's definitely worth it. The stretch marks, every stretch mark was worth it, um, for those boys. And,
Sure.
they say, um, you don't truly know love until you have a baby, which I don't really know if I believe that to be true, but um I think you don't really truly know fear until you have a baby.
Aw, precious. Oh my goodness. I'm just so happy that you're here sharing your story. There's a woman out there, many women out there, the ones who have had their children, who are laughing with you and just really relating to your story. And then those that haven't had them yet, looking forward to their own beautiful memories, now that they're hearing that yes, they can get through this thing just like you did. And all of the discomforting feelings and the anxiety, all that stuff will go away. And I'm just so happy to hear you tell people that today. Thank you so much. Okay. And so as we continue to move forward, I want to talk about how it is, how you are a super mom, because I know you're a super mom, and that's how you are able to achieve everything that you need to achieve with two growing boys, and a couple of dogs and a husband, and you just like whip it together, honey. I watch you on a regular basis, get them dressed, get them up, do this, do that. And you just do it with such ease. And so, when did you find your niche? When were you able to, like, I got this, you know what I mean? And find your confidence in knowing, hey, you know what? I am the best mom for these boys that they could ever have. I am equipped and prepared with everything that they need. And how do you manage that on a daily basis? I want to just hear about that. Tell everybody how you do that.
Well, I don't really know. I don't really think I just it's a process. I guess I could say that, it's a
Okay.
process. So we're constantly going through changes with the kids. So I'm happy to say that both of them are out of diapers. That was a huge that was a huge thing, accomplishing that. Um and watching them change and grow every day is like just so, I don't know. It's just a wonderful thing to be a part of. As far as the mother thing, I don't know. I'm a manager in my job, in my day-to-day job, and so maybe perhaps that helps me a little bit with managing of our lives. Um I struggled with getting places on time though, and so I got some help with my time management. So, and I think the mother that I am all has to do with the people that support me. It really does take a village, right? They say it takes a
Mhm.
village for the child, but
Sure.
like it takes a village for me too. I want to say and so um, the reason that I am the way that I am is because of the people that support me, and so I just have to know when to ask for help and just to be open to receive it. And so um, I knew that getting places on time was a problem for me. And so, I talked about it to several people. And then I got a game plan and I let myself off the hook for some things, which was very hard to do. So some nights, even though I want to do all the things, I'm not allowed to. I have to let it sit there, I have to just look at it and let it sit there because it's going to be fine, And the most important thing is that, I guess I'm okay, they're okay, we're all in a balance, and it's okay. Guess what? This is our house. We live here. It's lived in.
Sure.
And I think this year the boys going to the same school really had like an impact on the way that I mother them. And I just knew that it was going to be really, really important to get on a set schedule
Okay.
before and after school with them. And because kids do crave a routine, and since the day they've been born, they've been on a schedule. Really, if you think about it, we talked about it earlier. Every 3 hours. Um, but them going to school all day long and then coming home and being little crabby butts for like 3 hours until bedtime was very hard adjustment. But I knew that if we just had a routine in place, okay, when you come home, I'm going to feed you a little snack while I figure out what your homework is, then I'm going to get the dinner ready. I'm going to feed you a meal. Then we're going to take a bath. And now our routine is we read 2 books every night. And so like, I'm just so excited that my kids like want to read a book before they go to bed now. Like,
Oh,
and
wow.
so I know. And so I don't know. It's just like, that's really, really helped with the kind of keeping things making things look like, I'm doing it easily. Like we just stick to the schedule, and when we go outside of the schedule is when the only thing that happens when we go outside of the schedule is, the worst thing that happens is we're dealing with them being even more crabby, and but I can handle it, and so like we did that for Halloween, Halloween, but Halloween's once a year, so whatever, go with it.
Sure.
And so yeah, I'm just grateful that we stick to it, and they crave it, they liked it, and I can see them growing as a result of it, and it really works.
Oh, absolutely. I remember in my research, because I'm always researching stuff in it, and it talked about how we thrive with schedules and how children, especially, thrive with schedules because they know what to expect. They know what's coming next. And just like we can be confused and maybe frightened or have some anxiety about the unknown, so can they. But when they know
Yeah,
when we get home, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen, they come to rely on those routines. And they're like parameters, if you will, that helps show us what to do and what not to do in certain times in our lives. And so having that schedule for them, and like you said, it works. It's working not only just for them, but for the entire family. And everybody's able to move along nice and smoothly because there's a schedule. So I really like that idea. Thank you for bringing that up. You're just so amazing. And so now, as we continue to move through the process, we're going to talk about how do you sustain that wonderful, positive attitude that helps you to bring your best to your family and your children daily. How do you do that?
well, I have had, I have fallen short in this area. And so, I mean, I'm just a human being. And the good thing is, when I do fall short, especially in front of the boys, I always tried my best to, I don't know, I try my best to uh, amend my behavior like in the moment, and so when I fall short, like if I blow my top and at one of them, I make sure to address it. I also talk about my feelings to them, and this is one of the most amazing things about being in the process of being on a spiritual journey myself, is that I share it with them, and I can see that it works for them too. So like while I'm having my own experience, while I'm enjoying the benefits of looking at my behavior on a daily basis and seeing how I can try to do things differently next time, and um being honest and being open, and that sharing it with them is like, it's just been the most amazing thing. I teach the kids that when you get upset, when you get overwhelmed, to take a deep breath and relax. And like I teach them that in the moment when they get upset. I don't always do it like in the middle of a meltdown when they're doing it, but like if I try to show them how to regulate their emotions, and there's been a couple times when my oldest son will do the same thing to me. If he sees that I'm upset, he'll just say, "Mommy, take a deep breath and relax." It's just so touching,
It makes me want to cry. That's so beautiful.
Anyway, so, I think about, just their lives and the future, and, the type of people that I want them to be. They already are their own people in very different ways. And I love that about them. I love that they're similar, but they're also very much individuals. And, I think it's our job as their parents to, just nurture that for them, and just to give them enough space to grow, and connect them to the resources that they need to try to develop into, the best versions of themselves. And so, that's the goal, and so, that's they're my reason, and so, but also I'm doing the same thing for myself too, and so this is the house of evolution over here.
I love it. Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. I love it.
So, you know, sometimes it can be uncomfortable talking about things that are hard, but we can do it, especially, sometimes just living through the hard stuff is more difficult than talking about it. And so I always say that to my husband, hey, you lived through it. You already lived through it. Okay.
There you go.
You got through the hard part, So anyway, that's, how I sustain it is, I think about the reason, I think about the why, and just get up and do it all over again.
Absolutely. What a beautiful blessing. What a beautiful blessing. What a beautiful why that you have, and you're reminding us today that we should all look for our why. It might not be the children, who knows what your why is, but when you find that why and you can sustain your life making sure that you're adhering to everything to honor that why, then you're doing a good thing. You know that it's going to turn out just the way that it is meant to. And, I'm so happy to have you, Katie, on the healing train today. And you guys, this has been such a wonderful experience living vicariously through Katie Platipodis today. Her maternity story, her birth story, learning how to navigate the ins and outs of raising two little boys, and the changes that she herself went through as a result. And I tell you what, Katie, not somebody, everybody that sees this is going to get something from it. Thank you so much for pouring out your heart. Thank you so much for being authentic and transparent to talk about things that aren't easy to talk about, because everyone's got an idea, unsolicited advice. Everybody's got, and then throw social media in on top of it. Oh my goodness, we just can't do anything right. And so I'm happy to have you on today to show anybody that's watching that you too can take charge of your life. And it doesn't have to be like anybody else's. Everybody's experience is going to be different, but it doesn't mean that your experience is right or wrong, just your own personal experience. And so for that, we say thank you. And for everyone that's here today, thank you so much for joining us for another wonderful episode of The Healing Train. Katie, is there anything you'd like to say to the community before we shut down for today?
Just that I am honored to be a passenger on the train, and I've been watching your episodes, and I look forward to seeing who's going to be next, and just to seeing how their experience can help me in my life. So, thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you. And thank you so much, Katie. Thank you all for being here. And we're going to see you next week on another episode of The Healing Train. But in the meantime, we're going to ask God to bless you real good. And if there's something that you're manifesting, I want you to keep up the faith. Keep up the action because that's how it happens. If you get discouraged, that's okay. Just don't stop because that thing that you are manifesting for is right around the corner and on its way right to your door. And so, in the meantime, we love you. We say goodbye until next time and choo choo. All aboard the healing train. We'll see you next week, guys. Love you. Goodbye.